A question for you, Professor.
Ask away.
I'm looking for a girl named Mia. She'd be about my age now. A little younger. Do you know anything about her?
No, I'm afraid not. Anything else you can tell me about her?
Yeah, she was one of Walter's experimental subjects. No, one of his victims. 15 years ago.
There were more girls. The carriers know of one of them. It was hard to keep that one out of trouble.
Sounds like it could be her.
Maybe, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. She goes by the name of Lawan. She hangs out with Frank, as far as I know.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Can you tell me anything about X-13?
X-13? Interesting. Not quite, but listen to this. Back in the day, the military coded strategic locations around the city with an X and a number. This included sites like water towers, power stations. The higher the number, the more strategically important the location. But I've never heard of any location with a higher designation than X9.
So, what's strategically important about X-13?
Have no idea. But I'll tell you, it's not a place for guys like you and me, lad.
I wonder what it means then. So, what's the real story on the Night Runners? Who were they?
Heroes to most. Started out pretty simple, a group of soldiers who became infected during a mission. Now usually, infection spelled the end of a military career. Too much risk, especially with so many night operations. However, around this time, the military created something called inhibitors. Not only did they prolong the time you could spend in the dark, but also greatly enhanced motor skills and other senses. The downside was the side effects of inhibitors. It kicked the crap out of most people, if they didn't outright kill you. Given a choice, most soldiers took the risk to remain in active duty, and to continue to make a difference in the battle. That's why people consider them heroes. Not just because they did so much to help so many, but because they joined the revolution on the people's behalf. They were the real deal, Aiden.
That's quite a story. So who's this Colonel Williams?
Oh, yes. Colonel Chris Williams, a.k.a. the Butcher.
Ooh, how do you earn that nickname?
If you hadn't just asked me, I'd say you don't want to know. But, since you asked, Williams was the right-hand man of General Pratt, the nominal head of security for the city. I say nominal because it was an open secret that Williams was Pratt's puppet master. Pratt was a nepotism promotion, and of no practical military use. Growing bold, Williams ordered a chemical strike on the city, while Pratt was stuck at the bottom of a whiskey bottle, unable to cope with the conflict, the responsibility of military command, and really, well, anything not whiskey-related. What happened next is common knowledge. Williams' attack triggered the revolution. With Pratt having abdicated all authority, Williams ordered the military to shoot civilians. Most of the soldiers refused his order, and the end of armed conflict came swiftly. But not before the colonel and many of his supporters made the dam his personal stronghold. Shortly after that, lucky for him, he took in Waltz.
Wow, the Butcher indeed. Thanks for the information. Can you tell me any more about Major Matt?
Before the revolution, Jack Matt was an undistinguished military major. He made his name by refusing Williams' order to shoot civilians. He managed to get most rank-and-file soldiers to join him and side him with the people and help in their revolution succeed. He's considered by many as not just a hero, but the city's savior. That was then. Now, I hear, he's more and more after personal gain and the help of the citizens.
That sounds like he's on a power trip. It's too bad. So, what about this Rayner character?
Character's right. He's responsible for bringing together all the trade unions necessary to get the wall built. This had him mixing with nearly everyone in the city, both the bigwigs and everyday people. He leveraged his role to make himself very, very rich, which made him an unlikely revolutionary leader, but he became one nonetheless. He was ground zero for the rebellion, although his true motivations have never quite been clear. He came out on top in any case, and manages the supply chain for the peacekeepers. He's up there with Matt in influence. He's got exquisite taste, and in the course of his duties, manages to obtain all manner of rare artifacts his people come across. Well, he's become quite the collector.
Sounds like a colorful individual. So what really brought on the revolution?
It had been building for a while. Under William's direction, the military was increasingly unconcerned with collateral damage or civilian fatalities. The chemical strike was the match that lit the bonfire. The military explanation for the chemical strike was to eliminate the infected in evacuated areas of the city. Fact is, most areas had not been evacuated. Crowds of survivors remained, huddled on roofs, sheltering in place. Citizens, but also undocumented refugees from all over Europe. There was no way to know who was healthy and who was infected. There was a massacre, and half the city's population was wiped out.
Oh my God.
It was a tragedy beyond comprehension. Was Williams that bloodthirsty and cruel? Was the military that disorganized that it didn't know its own evacuation plans? In the end, it doesn't really matter. Death and chaos enveloped the city, and those who survived had had enough. And so, as people have done throughout the ages, they rose up in revolution.
I hardly know what to say. Well, this has been quite an education. Thanks, Professor.
No problem, kiddo. Wish more of my carriers were as curious as you.
What did I do to you? Let me go, please.
Did you mess with it?
ASAP.
No.
Peacekeepers,
Maybe it's
keep
the
it
water.
together. Let's
I
get to
got to
work.
wash for the first time in a month.
Go. But report it if it starts acting weird.
Pilgrim.